So the next people who are going to be coming up are Carrie and Joelle, who came all the way from the United States, and they're known as the Moms of Furries. They run furry chill spaces at conventions, and they're amazing, and here they come. But just for the sake of completeness, Carrie and Joelle I met probably at Furry Weekend Atlanta, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. Yeah, and they'll tell their own story, but basically they have created an institution in American furry cons, and I want to hear you talk about it.
Okay. Hello, I'm Joelle,
Hi, I'm Carrie.
and we are the Moms of Furries. It's technically an organization, it is just the two of us, but we support young furries, minors, and their families in the furry fandom. So, do you want to start?
No, you can tell how we got started, yeah.
So, just
You tell
a
it
little
well.
bit of our background. So, in 2018, our children were friends. They attended school together, and they came to us and asked to go to their first furry convention. And as you would expect,
We panicked.
we did. We had all of the stereotypical concerns that parents would have about their kids entering a space that we felt was a completely adult space. Fortunately, our kids really knew how to talk to us, and Carrie really loves dancing, so her kid came and talked about the dance competitions that are held at a lot of U.S. conventions, almost all U.S.
Pretty
conventions.
much, yeah.
And so they watched videos together, and then mine came to me with statistics and data that was proving, they were trying to prove that I was wrong in my opinions, my initial misconceptions about the fandom. So all in all, after much discussion, we decided to go ahead and take a 6-hour road trip to take our kids to their first furry convention in San Jose, California, to further confusion. With the idea that worst case scenario, we just got to spend some time with our kids. And then as soon as we walked into the venue, just immediately, we watched our children change, like they transformed.
They were taller.
They stood taller. They were
happier.
Their entire aura, for lack of a better word, brightened, and their smiles were huge, and just the happiness and
The engagement with the furry community was instant.
well, and they instantly felt like they found a place that they belonged, a community that they belonged to instantly. And because of that, we thought, okay, we were really hesitant. There are other parents that are most likely feeling the same way. So we will do one YouTube video, which we are not technologically competent, and we had never done anything like that. So we decided to do one YouTube video, and just to encourage parents to step out of their comfort zone and just take your kids to a furry convention, one that, there are some that are 18 plus, but seek out ones that allow minors, and just go with them. And,
Keep an open mind.
Right.
Listen.
And it really shocked us because
We thought parents
yeah.
would find the video and reach out to us and be so engaged.
our target, we were talking to the parents.
Right. But what happened was, it was the kids.
Yeah. The entire ride home on that Sunday, we had posted the video before we left the convention. The entire ride home, we were getting messages, because we had also immediately started, I think, Twitter, just, I don't know, a social media account. We also had only done, Facebook. We are of a certain age. But on the way home, we had just kept message after message after message, really supporting the idea of what we were saying. And I think when we pulled into your drive, we had decided to create the actual organization, Moms of Furries. And from there, we produced online content informing parents, just basics, just things that we need to know about the fandom as parents, because I'm really talking. Could you jump in?
No, I wanted to kind of touch on the fact that because we thought it would be the parents that reached out to us and it wasn't the kids, it kind of drove our mission to really increase that communication between those kids and their parents, because they were obviously looking for that connection. They wanted to share that part of themselves with their parents or their adult caregivers, and they didn't feel safe or comfortable doing so. And so a lot of the questions in the communication to us was, how do I share this information?
And actually, that's become by far the most frequently asked question from young furries to us. And it's just by a significant margin, how do I tell my parents that I'm a furry? And for us, we think that the more important part of that is parents should understand if your child they're struggling with telling you that they're part of the furry fandom, there are really important things that they are not telling you. And to open up that communication is the highest form of supporting your kid, whether it's within the furry fandom or not.
Right, and then, so the kids are asking us, how do I approach that with my parents? And we give that same advice the way our kids approached us. Talk about something that you have common ground on. My kid knew that I was really into the dance and showed me the dance competitions, and that's something that we could really communicate on and share an interest in. With Joelle, it was data. And so we encourage kids to look at the ways their relationship and their communication is successful and build on that, but also to be patient and gently keep bringing it up and keep trying to open up that dialogue. And we sort of give the same advice to parents. The best way to communicate is really to listen and try to find common ground on things that you can talk about. And if you have concerns about, is this appropriate or is this safe for my child, to be transparent with that and have those conversations. These are my concerns, and work on them together.
And we have found over the years, the exercise of care or protection that you need to give to your young furry within the fandom is the same that you would do at in any other space. You're always going to be protective. You're going to try to monitor what they're consuming as far as art or media or interactions. And the furry fandom really is no different for that.
Absolutely. Is anybody here for their very first time at a furry event? Anybody have any concerns about having their child be a part of it from the start? Everybody felt comfortable? You were a little nervous?
Oh, here.
It's exclusive because my daughter can't participate, and there must be a reason for that.
Right. And so to restate, so you're saying that in the Netherlands specifically, finding conventions or events that are for youths under 21?
That's been my experience. Maybe I've missed something. So if I have, please somebody tell me. But I couldn't find, this is the first event I found where minors are allowed to participate.
And we have only researched, Thank you. As far as what we've researched so far, since we were talking earlier, that's what we found. This seems to be one of the very few young furry inclusive
More
events.
inclusive, yes.
Yeah.
In the United States, it's pretty common.
Almost every convention or almost every well-known convention allows minors. Maybe allows, yeah. Makes sense. They don't all have youth tracks or events dedicated to young furries, but they typically allow them.
Yeah, and we hope that there are more events like this that are more age inclusive, because we have seen so many kids roaming about and doing crafts. It has been really wonderful, and hopefully this will be the start of more of that. We would love to come back and participate with this again, because it's great. In the United States, if you're not familiar with what we do, we go to... yeah.
Oh, I didn't see.
We go to conventions, and we bring our Young Furry Chill Space, and it is almost a convention within a convention, where it is a space that kids can connect with other kids, talk about furry things, play games.
Well, and not only do the kids connect with other kids, but the parents connect with other parents. We have talked a lot, not here today, but yesterday and previously, the furry fandom for young furries, it's the same as adult furries. This is maybe one of the few places that they feel they belong, or that they have that community And so we've watched in our Young Furry Chill spaces, we've watched young furries grow up together. Like they will meet and they will become friends. And my child, the one that originally got us into the fandom, met someone very early on, both young teenagers at the time, and they are now, I would say, probably in the top 3 or 4 people in each other's lives as far as support systems and friendships, and they've basically become family through the fandom. And that's not unusual. We see year after year, we have a few conventions, 2 in particular, that we do every year. One is in Seattle, Washington, and one is in Atlanta, Georgia. And we watch people come together in our space, parents and children, and that may be the only time they see each other, but it's almost like it's akin to a family reunion, something like that.
And I want to, I'm sorry to jump in, but I want to touch on that because at one of those conventions, Anthro Northwest in Seattle, one of our friends, a very well-known furry, came in to visit the kids because in the conventions, the very well-known furries can have a very long line. People want to come and interact and have a photo. And so this furry came into our space so that it would be less stressful for the kids, less line, be able to have access and get a photo. And this kid came up and was interacting with the furry, and I leaned over to the mom and I said, well, just so you know, this is so-and-so. And she looked at me and she said, I know. I knew because as soon as I saw my son's face and the way he reacted, that was his person. So she didn't recognize the furry. She recognized the look on her son's face. And to me, that was just such a big sign of this is the relationship that they've built together to be a part of the fandom together. And even though it wasn't her thing, she's not into it. She supports that part of her son such that she could share this huge moment. I mean, he was in tears. He was so excited. And so they will always have this meaningful memory.
Absolutely. And so our talk is titled Supporting Young Furries or Furry Kids. We have witnessed so many important events. We've been able and honored to witness other families' events, but we've felt it within our own families, how important this very welcoming, overall welcoming space, non-judgmental, free to explore identities and meet people with this mutual interest, immediate connection.
For a community that's largely othered in some way.
Right. And so it's so valuable for parents to just find a way to be okay with supporting your kids with something that you may not understand and is not maybe a typical interest. We just really feel that is one of our strongest messages that we try to get across, that your kid is, especially if your kid's willing to talk to you about their interest in furry, they're giving you a line of communication that is so wonderful. We have had many, I can think of specific instances where, especially during the teenage years, we had that parent-child conflict. There were things, the parents are nagging about homework and things like that. And we could just switch into a topic that had no baggage. We could talk about, they had a favorite fursuit maker, and if the suit, this person just showed a brand new suit, we could switch to this topic and have something in common that has lasted, and that child now is 21. Yeah. And we have a very, very close relationship that I really do, I think the furry fandom had a lot to do with. So.
Helped you maintain the bond.
Absolutely.
And I will also say that as our children got into the fandom, we heard an entirely new vocabulary of words and sounds that we were not familiar with. Ooh, what's this?
Right.
Lots of different words that you might hear. And we thought, well, this is an opportunity for us to educate ourselves, but also parents need to know. Mm-hmm. So we created a video that is out there on YouTube if anybody's interested, if you want to know what your kids are talking about, that just talks about very common phrases. And it's an older video, but all of those words are still very much in use. Right. And it's called Don't Be Scared, Be Aware, and it's on YouTube under Moms of Furries. But the point of it is that we break down these words, and so there are some words that you're going to hear your kids say that probably would encourage a conversation about, and other words like uwu, and what's another one that are very, very common and benign, and
I don't know. I can't think right now.
I know I can't think. But there's lots of great furry words out there, and that way you guys can kind of share that common bond, because we might text each other uwu or.
Right, it's almost like it's not a secret language because there is a full fandom, but it is something that not everyone around you will understand, so it's kind of.
Right, it's something that you can share, not unlike, does everybody know what skibbity, everybody's heard skibbity, like, is that not universal in the United States? People are making up words, but it's a way you can connect and again, share that, and then just be aware of some words that you may hear that you want to have a conversation about.
And at this point, we have under 10 minutes, and we'd love to hear any question if we can clarify or tell about us or what we've learned.
Any comments you want to share? That's an interesting question, and we sort of share that. We know about American culture because that's where we're from. We know that most international conventions do tend to be adults only. Some of it might be liability.
Well, I do know that there, I believe, somewhere in the UK, I know that it's like insurance or facility liability. They're not able to for legal reasons. I will say, though, even in the US, until we started Moms of Furries, how would I say that? The youth participation has always been there, but it's increased significantly since we've been out there telling people to it's okay.
And to give you an idea of size, sorry to jump in, but we used to have a room, and then we got another room, and now at Furry Weekend Atlanta, we have an entire floor.
Yeah.
Because there are that many kids that are a part of the fandom, and we love it. And we have dance parties, and we have different events, and sometimes we will broadcast the dance competition in our room so that the kids have an unobstructed view, and it might not be quite as loud. And we have sensory devices for kids, so it's expanding, and I expect it will expand.
Well,
in
for
Europe
instance,
as well.
this particular event, there's a young fur space, the Den. And if it is the only one of its kind, it's probably the first of its kind.
Agree. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a question, but I was just thinking about children and the furry. I'm not a furry myself, but when I think about my childhood, there was a lot of anthropomorphism going on, a lot of cartoons, stuffed animals, and just pretending to be animals. So I'm sort of thinking maybe everybody is a furry from the start, and it's kind of societally pushed out. I'm just wondering about this.
That's a great point because we have had just conversations with people about that because, to your point, little kids like cartoons and anthropomorphic animals and stuffies. And sometimes we will see those littles come into our spaces, but a few years later, they have sort of, for lack of a better term, grown out of it. I think around 10 or 11 is what we, from our observations, we are not data scientists by any means. But probably by 10 or 11, we watch the kids who are actually furry, who will probably be in the fandom longer than the ones that are attracted to those things as children because of cute nature and the media.
And to call out your child, for instance, every Halloween was some sort of animal.
Yeah.
And watched every single program.
And every program was some type of
anthropomorphic
character. Or, yeah.
So there's definitely signs out there, and all of the people that want to get their photo taken with Mickey Mouse, and we see furries everywhere because there are signs, and it's interesting that the stigma attached to it. From some places, it really comes from not knowing, which is part of why we do what we do. We want to talk to people about it. Like, it's on my resume. I had a job interview a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about being furry because I think the more we talk about it, the more it becomes just a part of speech and not a weird thing that people do. Never mind, it's okay to be weird. It's completely okay.
Right. But it's not a dangerous thing for children to be a part of. Or, like I said, 10 or 11 is where we see what we would say when kids truly identify it with the fandom or as being a furry. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there another question?
Yes, question. So do you have some recommendations for convention stuff, like how to correctly do this and this and this regarding
So
That's an
I
excellent
made-
question.
We were trying to stay on track, which we never stay on topic. So we are sorry. We did know that we were going to come into this more conversationally and casual. But as far as, yes, we call it furry etiquette. So we don't know what you know and what you don't. So we're going to just say some basic things. Have you heard of the 621 rule? So 621, do you want to?
No.
Okay. So it's kind of, it's a well-known rule within the U.S., but I don't know what the culture is globally. But at a convention, you strive for 6 hours of sleep each day, 2 meals, and 1 shower. And actually that's one of the terms that we have on that video, because it sounds like it could be something, but
Nefarious, possibly.
right. But it's simply just a guideline for convention attendance. So that's one thing. We talk a lot about consent. And when we say consent, it could be
Everything.
everything in reference to touching a fursuit, because fursuits are expensive. And we feel very strongly that we need to teach children at a young age.
May I touch your arm?
Yes. May I have a hug? Because some people in suit, even if they are performing as a character, may not welcome hugs or physical touch.
And that's for adults and kids alike, because sometimes we get so excited when we see something that's beautiful or amazing and we want to go touch. First of all, somebody may not be able to see. So if you've never had on a fursuit head, the vision is very limited. So
Yes.
somebody could come up and touch you, and you feel the touch, and you have no idea what's happening. So that could be very scary.
Yes.
Also, some people don't like to be touched. So it's just something to think about as we're out and about. Characters in theme parks and things, they expect to be touched. You don't have to ask permission. But in any sort of a furry environment, it's so vital, because they may not even know you're there.
And just some basic convention things. It's always better to pre-register when you learn of a convention online, because some places have to cap attendance just because of the popularity of the convention. When you get there, you register, you go through a lot of, all U.S. conventions have what we would call a con book that gives you the list of panels and
It's the program.
It's the program, the information about the event. We always tell parents, especially new parents, take a moment to just sit and read through, to familiarize yourself. You're not going to get to everything. Pick the things that you want to get to.
Yes, and I know we're running out of time, but I really want to say something important about any sort of conference or convention, especially something like this. Like when we see all the furries, this morning we started seeing all the furries, we got very excited because this feels like home to us. But the very first time we went to a convention, seeing all the furries was overwhelming, especially in large conventions or where it can get kind of claustrophobic. So allow yourself that space to step away. If it starts feeling just overwhelming, that's normal. It's a lot of input.
One of the just most beautiful things about the furry fandom is that you can act as weird or uncomfortable. Like, people will help you with uncomfortable feelings, or if they feel like you are in need of help. But if you just seem a little bit off, nobody cares. It's fine.
It truly
Take
is
your
an
moment.
inclusive community to be yourself, and if you do need to step away, people are going to understand that, which is...
And ask. People love to share information, or in our experience.
Yep, so we have 60 seconds. Any other question?
Oh, yeah. Yes. We will.
Okay, I'll keep this one relatively short. I grew up here in the Netherlands, and my experience with the furry fandom has been rather difficult because there is not much awareness about it over here. It is entirely unknown. There are no major conventions in this country. There are a few. They are, I believe, all age-gated to 18 or 21. They are very insular with regards to information. The more accessible conventions are all international. Is it okay if I just share a little bit of experience?
So as far as, okay, this is our most frequently asked question from parents. How do I help my young furry interact with the fandom?
Yes.
Especially in places that there aren't events. And quite honestly, we're still challenged with that, even after all of these years, because the best interaction is if you are able to go to an in-person event to find peers. So I'm going to say that we should be very, very thankful to Jack, because this is just an amazing space. And we've already seen so many young furries who are having that opportunity now here in this country to meet other young furries and have this experience. So hopefully it expands and grows and develops.
I hope so too.
Thank you.